Howdy. Welcome back to Dion Talk. Stop pretending 2034 is not going to happen. That's what I'm going to cover in the intro to this video. I am making short videos on Thursdays and on the weekends for those people who would never click on a 2-hour video. The intro to these longer videos on Tuesdays is to cover a topic to give people a chance to get their questions into the chat. And the idea is, my goal with these live streams is that it's not hard to research information on financial freedom, on investing in real estate, on what it's like to be retired, to retire early, script a video and write a video. It's a little harder to just do it off the cuff. I have taken notes on my videos. I think I scripted some when I used to talk to myself in the videos. But the goal is for you to get the information that an investor keeps in top of mind awareness. So if you ask a question during a live stream, this is live on Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific. If you're watching it after, say, 5:30 on Tuesday or any day after that, you're watching it in Futureland, and it's no longer live. That's how time works. And if you ask a question live, you see some of these questions I have the answer to because they are things that pop up either often or were important enough for me to commit to memory. And not having the best memory, I want to make sure that I only use my mental space for the things that matter. So if you ask me a very intricate tax detailed question, I'll have an idea and then I'll say, here's how I would find the information or the professional that I would use in that case. But for most of this, these are things that you need in top of mind awareness for you so you can make a quick, like a snap decision when somebody talks about a real estate deal or you're looking at properties or you're considering what to invest in or you're looking at your timeline. You should make this second nature to where you just know what's important to you. And yeah, taxes matter, but I hire a pro. How you put a roof on a building, the underlayment, the way you put the order that you would put it on, all of that is important. So I hire a pro. I don't want to know how to do that stuff. I don't know how to do the taxes. I know that if a building gets a new roof, it can sometimes get your insurance lowered. It can protect your asset for years. And as you get older, it might be one of the last times you have to put a roof on that building. So it's important, like taxes, but I don't need to know that. I do need to know how old is a roof in my market before an insurance company won't insure it? And how much will it cost? How many quotes will I get to replace it? Same thing with taxes. I need to know for the strategy that I'm using. Currently, I'm a buy and hold investor. But if I wanted to sell, then I would really go and educate myself on 1031 or paying the taxes, depending on what best option was at the time. So the goal with this specific video, though, is almost, and be very selective on this, because the less a man makes declarative statements, the less apt you are to look foolish in retrospect. Almost everyone I know doesn't think 2034 is going to happen. Just like they didn't think 2024 was going to happen. In 2010, I was laid off from law enforcement because the 2008 housing crash. I got laid off earlier than that. But this is a position I found myself in, laid off, 40, single parent with 3 kids, started teaching at a CDL school, making $17 an hour, found out about $89,000 in bad debt in my name I didn't know existed till the divorce. Not a very good position. And like most people, I experienced the housing crash. I had an adjustable rate mortgage. My mortgage cost went up. It was very hard to keep my house. Real estate was a scary thing. And those first couple of years of investing, here's why people are pretending 2034 is not happening. If you go up to the average person right now and you said, if you can make an investment today, you can buy something today and then be financially free. And starting tomorrow, you could go to work. You could choose to not go to work, right? That if you won $10 million in the lottery, what would you do? Would you go to work? Would anyone ever hear from you again? That kind of same concept to where if you could buy an asset today that gave you financial freedom, almost everybody would do it. But if you tell somebody that you can buy assets for a decade, then in those first 2 years, you're going to save. You're going to make a bunch of sacrifices. You're not going to spend money. You're going to cut streaming services. You're not going to take vacation. You're going to look at ways to make more money at your job, to get a raise or a promotion or change companies or careers to make more money. You're going to work overtime. You're going to try to work side hustles. You're going to do all of this sacrifice, and you're not going to see a recognizable difference in your income. Those first 2 years to buy that first property was sacrifice. Wasn't making money, didn't make money. In around 2013, very beginning of 2013, I closed on my first duplex. I was thinking 2024. I was 2023-ish. I was thinking a decade down. I thought if I bought a property every 2 years, in 10 years, I'd have five cash flowing properties, right? Duplexes. So I'd have 10 units, maybe living in one of them. I ended up going a lot faster than that after year 6. But right now it's 2024. If you start today, there are people that I've found on my channel that started 2 years ago. Yeah, they're in the graduating class of 2032, right? Curtis, Josh and Mary, people that took those first few steps in the first couple of years aren't seeing a recognizable change in their income. I mean, yeah, house hacking can lower what you're paying for rent, but you still have expenses. You're still working. You're still sacrificing. You're still not going out as much. You're trying not to take as many vacations. If you go out with your friends, you have an appetizer instead of a whole meal. You're doing all these things to get money for the next down payment. It doesn't feel very rewarding. It isn't going to for another 4 years. So if you start today, think about this. This is why people are pretending 2034 is not going to happen. In 2013, when I closed on my first duplex, and I didn't do anything different. I didn't say, now I could add more streaming services. Now I can get nicer vehicles. Now I can take better trips. Anything that was changed from that investment, that first house hack, just went into saving for the next investment. You don't feel that in your quality of life. It's actually kind of a frustration because you think, I have access to more funds now. I could make my funds my fun and see how that turns out. I'd still be working. So if you start now in 2024, this means if you're starting today, you just found this video, you just found this channel, the concept of financial freedom, making work optional. And then I'll tell you where this video came from because it's kind of a dark place. I call it my random Sunday thought that I had this week and why I wanted to make this video. If you start today, not only will you not see a change in your finances or what you can do with your quality of life, but for 2 years, you're just saving to get to that first purchase. This is where maybe you have to work in a field, because I had never been a CDL instructor. I'd never worked in an educational field before, right? I'd been a Marine, a cop, and a truck driver. Not too much of that speaks training. Getting training, sure, but being the trainer? So what lender was going to trust that I would like being a CDL instructor? Why would they lend me anything? So I had to work there for 2 years to be bankable in the new industry. 2 years to save because I wasn't making a lot of money. And I had 3 kids to raise. And it's your sacred duty when you have kids to make sure 50% of your offspring make it to the age of 18. So nailed it. 2 years seeing no change, but knowing mentally that a 10-year prediction was happening. And for 2 years. So now if you start today in 2026, maybe you close on your first property then. Maybe you're not in as much bad debt. Maybe you're not a single parent because you can be successful at relationships, something I have never really pulled off, especially when kids are involved. Then think about another 2 years, right? 2015, get that second duplex for me. Still no recognizable change to my quality of life. No more vacations. Still no streaming services. No cable. Didn't cut the cord to lose cable. Just didn't have cable. Had internet, so my kids weren't living in the Stone Ages, so they could do their schoolwork. But we didn't have streaming services. Bought another duplex. Didn't take the cash flow and say, okay, now I can get a better vehicle. Now I might take a vacation. I've been doing this for 4 years. I've been working hard. I deserve a vacation. This would be 2028. Imagine starting the journey for financial freedom right now in 2024. And in 2028, not being able to take a vacation, not having streaming services, not being the petulant 26-year-old with every streaming service on the planet because there's one show in each streaming service that you just have to watch. Not referencing my kids there. Don't tell them. But let's just say now it's 2028. You've been doing this for 4 years. do you have the discipline to continue to pretend that 2034 is actually still going to happen? Because in 2028, now you get a little cash flow from the rental, you get a little cash flow to your savings from house hacking. If you're using any strategies that I've used where, I save for 2 years, buy a duplex, save for used to buy a duplex. The next duplex only took a year and a half. So this would be halfway through 2029, you acquire your third rental. This is not fast. This is not overnight. This is not get rich quick. Or actually, what I said in the Real Estate Rookie podcast was, this is get rich quick. You just have to understand that 10 years is quick. There are people who will contribute to retirement accounts and buy dividend stocks and invest in an index portfolio, a diversified index portfolio, planning for 30 years. Like Joe Kuhn, he had 37 years of investing to retire at 54. He didn't even think 2034. He was thinking 30 years down the road. I didn't start investing until I was 40. So 10 years was my timeline. Can you imagine right now telling people in 2029, picture you are in 2029. You've gone almost 5 years without a vacation, 5 years with no streaming services at your house, 5 years driving whatever vehicle you have now or whatever vehicle you sold your expensive vehicle for to buy an old vehicle. Could you do that? Do you think it's stupid? Because there's people who won't do that. They'll have the streaming services. They won't even acquire the rentals. They'll just continue to work. And in 2029, they'll have some stories of some vacations that they took. And if you're 70, sure, do that. But if you're 60 or 50 or 40 or 30, 25, and you can do these 5 years, it was about the 6-year mark where the cash flow started to increase. And I made a mistake and paid off a mortgage. Shouldn't have done that. Lost $1 million doing that. But the cash flow was adding up, so I took care of that. And at about the 8-year mark, when I started house hacking the fourplex, and it was my second house hack, and I rented out the unit from the first one, and my cash flow jumped to over $5,000 a month coming in from not working, and then I was still working. I actually took a vacation, 2017, 18-ish, took my first vacation, a month in Colombia. The next year was a month in Thailand. The next year was a month driving around the country with my brothers, then 2 months in Florida, then 2 months in Portugal. So every year I was doing this. And then in 2022, I got the cord for W-2 employment. And this is what gives me this thought on Sunday that made me think of this. Are you still pretending 2034 is not going to happen? Because from now till 2029, it's going to suck. And I have to be careful because sometimes I make it sound like it sucks so bad you would never do it. My friend Frank pointed that out, old guy RAI. Thank you for that. I'm not trying to say it's depressingly bad because I still worked. I still went out and did things. I still took trips with the kids. We just didn't take time off of work today. We did it on the weekends. Those were a few weekends when I didn't have overtime. But 2022 comes around, and now instead of my kids inheriting a parent who can't take care of himself when he's too old to work, they're going to inherit millions as just an accidental byproduct of me wanting financial freedom. This wasn't done to create generational wealth. I actually don't want my kids to think that there's a big windfall coming. Never be worth more dead than alive, especially with my kids, because they would have took me out for a slice of pizza. I want them to feel motivated to do things on their own. So up until 2029, it's going to be pretty rough. And then 2031, 2032, you get some cash flow. This is where the discipline comes. I did take vacations, but I didn't go to an expensive country. I didn't take expensive trips. I went to Colombia and Thailand where the dollar goes farther. I mostly scuba dove when I went. So those aren't very expensive things. I do month-long cruises till after retiring. That's future land that's going to happen in because an asset is going to pay for those, not my W-2 where I have to sell my life 1 hour at a time. And in 2034, if you start right now, 10 years, 2034, you can have this thought that I had on Sunday. If today you can stop pretending 2034 is not going to happen, this is what your 2034 can be like. I'm 54, been retired for 2 years, and it was Sunday. I did some things this weekend, hung out with a friend, and it was Sunday night, and I was thinking, okay, the World of Warcraft expansion's been out for like a month. I'm getting used to this. I should probably go to bed because it's Sunday. For a second, I had that thought. And it's because I had been talking to my friend that I hung out with, and I talked to my daughter. We were supposed to go watch a movie. She ended up having to work, so we're going to go later. daddy-daughter date. Still do those. And I thought, it must suck today, when it was Sunday, to have to go to work tomorrow, to think in terms of 5-day work weeks, to think in terms of weekends. Because retiring at 52 in 2022 and having absolute time freedom, no schedule, no alarm clock, well, waking up when I feel like it, taking naps anytime I want, and sometimes those naps are at night. Yeah, 5 to 8 years really sucked for the prison sentence of life, for forever, for every day that's left, to never have another Monday where I have to go to bed because tomorrow starts the 5-day work week. And all I had to do in 2010 was understand 2020 was going to happen. Those 10 years from today are going to happen. Are you willing to do what other people won't for 5 to 10 years so that you can do what no one can? What is today? Today's just Tuesday. It's my live stream. I'm sitting out here in Seabrook along the ocean. I can't see the ocean because this camera not good enough. So hence the background of this 70s porn star room looking thing that they got going on here at this resort. But because it's just whatever day. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to go out and hang out. The part of the ocean that I live on, I don't like it enough today. I want to go hang out at this other part of the ocean because one, the money doesn't matter. It's a hard thing to get around in your head because I'm not paying for it. My assets are paying for it. And two, the day doesn't matter. Dave, the actual benefit to this is that this place has a giant indoor heated pool, hot tub. The only people in it were the people with me a couple of days in a row. Like, this doesn't suck. Everything doesn't suck now. I can't put into words the power of financial freedom. All I can do is live the life that other people might look at and go, I might not want the exact same life. Maybe you don't like to scuba. Maybe you don't like to travel. But what would you do with time freedom? How old will you be? Put this in the chat. How old will you be in 2034? If you're one of those people that are sensitive about your age, make one up. But in 2034, at that age, do you want to have another decade of work ahead of you or 2 decades of work? Or would you like to have the option to have every single night be Friday night for the rest of your life? Because right now, you can count the number of Friday nights in every year, and it's 52 for 99% of the people everywhere. You could turn that in from 52 to over 300 every year. Math says that's more. Sorry for the dad jokes. There will be more. There are a couple of questions that people sent me that we might cover if there's no questions in the chat, but I want to get to all of those. I want to say howdy to everybody. That only took 19 minutes with a goal of 10. So cheers. Old Guy REI, Levita, Wayne Wong, Rentor LLC. Howdy. Freedom Works. Happy Dion Talk Day, everyone. Awesome. I look forward to Tuesdays. I really do. I like the live chats on the other days. I'm only doing lives. I'm not really doing edited videos anymore. But I can't really see all the comments. I actually have to watch my own videos afterwards to see the live comments. I'm sorry, I'm not better looking. T Peel, howdy, Corby, howdy, Misfits. I'm here. We could start now all-nighter. Jason, great afternoon. Don't forget it's Taco Tuesday. There you go. Buzz Tune, Chester, the Riley Oak, watching from work. Yeah, shh. That's what earbuds are for. I had these Sonic earbuds. I should put a link to Amazon. They don't go in your ear, they go against your ear. They're bone induction. I like to listen to podcasts when I go to sleep. It does two things. One, I can fall asleep because it stops my brain from thinking about things. I can actually just listen. And two, whatever unfortunate person is laying next to me doesn't have to listen to what I'm listening to. So I recommend getting non-insertion earbuds if you're one of those podcast or audiobook junkies like me. Bill, howdy. And Jimmy John took back a mess. Oh, wealth building journey took it out. Oh, nice. I'll have to figure out what happened there. Chester made me lose sleep forever, never wonder what was happening. Nice. Dennis, howdy. Josh, speaking of some of these names that I'm mentioning tonight, there is a course call at 6 o'clock. Has to be done at 7. Get reservations at 7:30. So from 6 to 7, course call tonight. We are covering how to negotiate once you're under contract. Last week was negotiating before going under contract. We'll also cover everything that comes up before that. Sarah, old guy. Thank you, Chester, for taking somebody out. Frank, text me what was taken out. Or Chester, either one. Everyone, nice to see you all again. Lumberjack, what the hell is that in the background? It is a 70s porn star hotel room out here at this ocean resort on the other side of the water because my water wasn't good enough. Matt, your water's not good enough either. It's cold over there. Atlantic comes from it. Arctic, right? It's always cold. No thanks. I'm supposed to be going paddleboarding with a friend in Port Orchard. Almost went with him last Saturday. Had the daddy-daughter date, which fell through. So would have been nice to go on the paddleboarding instead. Money, howdy. Nice to see you all here too. Leonard just dropped up work. God, both made it. It's a very expensive piece of art, Gary. Exactly. For questions, are you coming to? Is everybody going to the one rental at a time event in February? I will be there. I want to see Matt and Ashley open. I want to see Millennial Mike present. I want to see PTO for life. PTO for life. Make every day Friday night. Exactly. I want to see them there. PE turned to RE. Question: if rates are 1% less than my current rate, do I refinance now or wait until I can drop PMI at 80% LTV? It's a good question. I think, Curtis, if I hadn't met you and spent some time with you and kind of got an idea of your situation, I might have a different answer. So I want to give the generic answer and then one more tailored towards you. So the generic answer is I like to refinance if it's 1.5% and I'm less than 5 years into the loan. So two criteria that I do. If I'm more than 5 years into the loan, I want it to be a significantly higher. I want it to be a significantly higher decrease before I reset the amortization schedule on interest going to the bank. It's a random number that I picked, means nothing. It's just how it works for me. So 1.5% or more. And then I'm going to shop around to figure out who's got the best refinance options, because sometimes your lender has more options than another lender will, and sometimes other lenders will make better concessions to take you away from competition. So you definitely want to shop around. I like refinancing to get rid of PMI, but I wouldn't refinance only to get rid of PMI because I would look at how much is it every month? What is the cost of refinancing? There was a question that somebody sent to me on, do you buy down the rate? So I'll be answering that tonight too at some point. I don't know that I would refinance now. I think first, are interest rates a full percent lower than where you were? Because just because the Fed lowers rates doesn't mean lenders do. This cut, a 25% basis cut, was baked in already, and we went 50. So we'll see. They're talking 50 more. I wouldn't wait a year if your goal was to refinance, but I would probably wait until after the next Fed meeting to see what they do with rates, and then shop lenders. Yeah. What's the cost to refinance? How long have you had the loan? I think you've only had your first mortgage now 2 years, maybe a little over a year. So in that first year, I would want to hire a bigger margin in the interest rate drop. That's a good question, though. Because remember, when you refinance, you reset the 30 years, you restart the amortization schedule. And if you're farther into it, then you're giving up more of your principal paid on every month. Now, all night hatters bringing their kids, 16 and 12. Nice. McMahon, hello. We started in 2010. It really did take 10 years, but it was all worth it. So it is a 10-year journey. It's awesome. Especially to reach financial freedom right when the pandemic starts, right when there's an eviction moratorium, a stock market crash, and then to watch the rapid rise of the next couple of years and what's happened. Have the government come out and go, hey, here's $46 billion set aside for rent relief. Yeah, they messed up for 2 months when it was tenants have to apply, tenants have to be impacted. But then the CARES Act 2 correction said, no, landlords can just apply for this because you had tenants who were working, not paying rent, and realized, wow, even when everything falls apart, it's going to be okay. Jason, got rid of it before I could figure out what he meant, but didn't figure out the code. Nice. Money. What is one rental at a time? I'm sure a bunch of people put it in here. That is the Michael Zuber uh, community. He's got a school community. He's on YouTube. He's got a book. He's got courses. He came out with a book. His first book was One Rental at a Time, 15-year journey. So 15-year journey. So it's not get rich quick overnight. And it was, he went through the housing crash. So he's got a bit of a different perspective than I do. I've relied on people like the lumberjack landlord and Zuber to go, okay, this is what can happen. Here's how I need to mitigate that before ever going through it. One of my reasons why I diversify in two different ways, right? Spreading my properties out and having 1/3 military, 1/3 Section 8, 1/3 working and retired, so that I don't go through what Matt did when he had almost everybody in his properties from the construction field, and construction took a hit. So learn from their mistakes or their experiences. Yeah. And so One Rental at a Time is having a meeting in Vegas in February. I believe it's the 15th and 16th, whenever the President's Day weekend is. Millennial Mike, myself, maybe Matt the Lumberjack Landlord, I don't want to commit into it, is going to be there for a whole week. And we'll be doing midnight Denny's meetings. So face-to-face question answering, even the rude questions that you can't delete in person. Welcome to bring those. His first book was good, and he paid Amazon to have a robot narrate it, and AI narration wasn't very good. So I offered to narrate it for him and narrated it. Took a lot longer than I thought it was going to because ACX is not very user-friendly, the recording platform that Audible uses. And then he came out with a second book, which was 15 Conversations with Real Estate Millionaires. And there's some people in there that you might know, like Meet Kevin. There's a couple chapters, and so I narrated that too. So if you can put up with my voice, it's on Audible, both of those. I should do a thing where I give away one of those Audible books again. Maybe I'll do it on Thursday's video. Nice. Sarah, all nighter. I was going to, there's a super chat, but Sarah, I was going to bring my last 3 kiddos at home, and my husband and I remembered that we've never been anywhere alone. The Army has kicked our butt on alone time. We will be there. Nice. Traveling without kids, it's nice. Both are good. Sucks when you travel with your kids and they expect you to bring them back. BuzzTune, course call tonight. Lumberjack workshop in Old Guy area meeting tomorrow. This is a value community. Thank you for that. That's cool. I totally agree. It's one of those things too, where I don't think any of us go, we know everything, and here's how you do it. We go, here's what I do, and here's if you want to invest at a distance, if you want to do seller financing, if you want to do all of these things that you could do. We're a community who can reference you to, recommend you to people who've done the strategy you're trying to. Because I don't know that everyone should try to do mine, because I don't know that everyone is as lazy as me, and you really have to be lazy to want to find the easiest way to do everything. Andy Borsch, I started last year, took Matt's course. No, that's good. His course is, if you're especially doing renovations and the harder work. My course is for the lazy person, buying rent-ready or already occupied properties. So now we're starting already. First years do suck. I just got a new job starting Monday. Nice, congratulations on the job. And that working consistently in a field and working on your credit score and saving and then talking with lenders, like this takes time. Don't expect it overnight. You'll be a lot better off than the person who thinks, okay, I'm going to give this a few months, and if I'm not financially free by February, I'm out of here. That's not how it works. Lavita, native video dedicated to how to get through the first 5 years of suck mentally, emotionally, and financially. The roller coaster is real. That is a great suggestion. Video on how to get through the first 5 years. Just take a note. I will take a screenshot. J Mess. Would you do a cash out refi on your primary to pull equity for down payments to buy more rentals to speed up the process? This is a really good question. And there are people who've done that. So I'm not going to say it's a bad thing to do. I will explain why I have not done that. So there's two ways. There's a lot of ways, but there's two main ways that I've thought about to acquire rentals and to acquire more rentals. One is to recycle capital. That is to pull out equity on your house with a home equity line of credit, a cash out refinance, sell your house, take the money, and because you got a IRS 121 rule, you're not going to pay any taxes on it, take that money and buy something that you can then house hack. So there's like a logic chain that I go through to get there. That's recycling capital. The way that I chose, the lazier way, the slower, safer way, is recycling cash flow. Overtime, side hustle. Instead of buying a house, buy a duplex, right? I moved from my house into an apartment to rent the house out. Got 2 years of rental income on my tax returns so that I could buy a duplex. Recycling cash flow. It's just saving money. I've never taken out a home equity line of credit, never done cash out refinance, never sold to 1031. And there's a reason why. When you say, use the term, I want to make sure I get this right. Refi on your primary to pull equity. So you're not pulling equity. You're not pulling anything. Let's redefine the word equity in your brain. This is what changed it for me. You have the ability to add debt to an existing asset. You already have a mortgage. Are you willing for that mortgage to double or go up 50%? That's what you're doing. To then have some cash, which is the equity, that you can buy a rental with. Now, does the rental produce a yield on that money that's good enough to also justify the debt on the existing asset? And when you're starting, you don't have your investing legs under you yet. My first year owning a rental property, I lost money. And the next year, making offers on properties, thinking my real estate agent friend with 30 rentals and owned his own office with 19 real estate agents working for him, thinking that he was probably a good mentor, had me making offers on properties that would have bankrupted me. I didn't know what I was doing. I had to educate myself. That takes time. Do you want to put your house at risk on the rentals you're probably going to make your biggest mistakes on? Same thing with, should I take money out of my 401k, or should I put a loan against my 401k, or should I make the stupidest thing ever, do a self-directed ARA and put a rental in it, because then you lose depreciation and ability to self-manage and ability to house hack and all the actual benefits to real estate. So I did that. Pulled money out of a 401k to buy a rental for my house, duplex, pay off, fourplex, sixth property. Sixth property was the first one where I thought, okay, I've got my investing legs under me. I understand what I'm getting into. I know what to look for in the inspection, the appraisal, my offer, my cash flow, my expected yield. I will now take all of the money out of my 401k and put it to work in a rental. If I had done that in the first year, I would have lost all those years of saving, all the company matches, because I lost money on my first house as a rental. If I'd gotten any of those deals that agent, good guy, good investor, he'd just never done small multifamily and he'd never purchased with a mortgage. So he didn't know how to calculate yield. He was using, it's a stupid term, goes for commercial, cap rate. Doesn't apply to residential. And he was using it for my residential properties. And it would have, I'd be working for another 20 years if I'd bought any one of those two or three that he had me make offers on, because he didn't know my strategy. And it's not his fault. It's my fault. You are in charge of your investing strategy. You need to make sure you educate yourself. So you have to choose. Are you going to recycle capital or recycle cash flow? Capital is very risky. You can acquire properties faster, but your margins will be razor thin. Save for 2 years, buy a duplex. Yeah, it's slower, but I completely dropped my housing expense from $1,500 a month to $300 a month. Then I saved and purchased and saved and purchased and saved and moved into the fourplex where I was now getting paid. The day that I moved in, I was getting paid $1,700 a month to live there, and I got to rent out the unit from the duplex. So my cash flow went from $2,700 a month to over $5,000 a month from one move. But it took years. When you pull out equity, add debt to an existing asset, you destroy and eliminate most of your cash flow. Now, lumberjack landlord, now let me explain why that might be the right way to go. Lumberjack landlord and Zuber have both recycled capital. So neither one of them retired for more than 15 years. I was able to retire in 8, but I worked till 12 years of investing, and then I retired. So I could have retired sooner. With a teeny tiny little 8 property, 18 unit real estate portfolio, compared to the 15-year mark for Zuber and the 23-year mark for Lumberjack when they retired, 180 plus units, 140 plus units. You want a big portfolio, bragging rights for numbers, and you're willing to do another 5 to 10 years, absolutely recycling capital. Maybe not on that first deal. Get your investing legs under you. We'll get you that hockey stick growth. Their investing strategy, if growth is your goal, much better than mine. I'll absolutely be the first one to admit it. My goal was not a big portfolio. There's specifically, I don't even want the ones I have. There comes a time I'm probably going to sell some, maybe pay off some debt, maybe sell all of them and just live on money. Money's a real thing. My goal was the right amount of cash flow from the least amount of units. Recycling capital would have reduced my cash flow and increased my units for a while. Eventually, the cash flow is bigger and the units are bigger. It's better. And Zuber does use Property Manager. So I can kind of see that we probably have about the same amount of time in rentals. But Matt, the lumberjack landlord, large portfolio, handling his rehabs himself, managing the crews. So I'm transparent on my numbers, and for a good cause. Matt and Zuber don't share some of their numbers because they want it to be attainable. Zuber says get to 4, one rental at a time. Guy says get to 4, then choose if you want more, choose if it's not for you, or just keep those 4, pay them off. You'll have a better retirement, right? Just kind of, that's like the litmus test. Get to 4, now you know if it's for you or not. I wouldn't want more. I make about, and so it's like 35,000 a month and rent comes in, 8,000 in mortgages go. Now it's 9,000 in mortgages going out, thanks taxes and insurance. I set aside some for repairs and maintenance. So I have like $21,000 a month that's mine to just goof off with. I live on about 5, and that's even having to figure out ways to spend money. They make 10 times, maybe 20 times what I do, easily. I wouldn't trade. If either one of them came to me right now, said, just like locked it up as it is, we'll just swap. Nope. Wouldn't want it. Wouldn't want the numbers to look at. Wouldn't want the number of tenants. Wouldn't want the number of properties. Maybe you do. So then recycling capital is the way to go. Great question. And then I see, there was a super chat here. Matt, I admit it. I did it for the choke the donkey money there. I said it exactly. I think somebody made a t-shirt and put it in the one rental at a time Facebook. Yep. The choke the donkey levels of cash. 2010, making $17 an hour, having 3 kids, $89,000 in bad debt. $20,000 a month coming in that I don't have to work for was choke the donkey money to me then. And it's not now. Now it's like, yeah, I could probably figure out how to spend this. Continues to grow. It's terrible. But I don't want the choke the donkey level of attention to the portfolio that's needed for larger portfolios. First one to admit, Matt's and Zuber's way is better if your goal is growth. We will see you all there, Sarah. Awesome. Nice. Like the video. That would be cool. We got 83 people here, 30 likes last count. It's a good ratio. I think it's like 10% is most videos viewed to watch. During the live, it might be a little different. All-nighter hider. This community brings a broad variety of considerations. Yes, it does. Sarah, I appreciate you guys. You're all very encouraging in your unique ways. My husband loves that you call yourself the lazy lord. It's usually lazy landlord. The lazy lord is good. I think I'm just going to go with that. I like it. I can do the symbol of the lazy lord like this too. Your husband should enjoy that. But shake your head at me. Okay. Uh, yeah, lazy is like a superpower. I found jobs that were easy, right? I joined the Marines because that was easier than tree work. You work in law enforcement, you're not really loading or unloading anything. Or when you deal with clients, you kind of select the level of control that you're using. Truck driver, you get paid to listen to podcasts. Like that's good. CDL instructor, a little more mental work than I expected, but I enjoyed it. But not having to work, yeah, 10 years of my lazy struggling to now have my lazy in control of everything I do. It's amazing. JNYC, I hope everything is well with you too. Damiola, thank you for the consistency and 10-year message. Yeah, I almost want to say I wish it could be sooner, but it's one of those things where it can be sooner. And if you plan for 10, you'll be surprised and happy. If you plan for sooner and it takes 10, well, you stick to it. Lumberjack landlord, not better, just different. I have a wife and 4 young kids. They are expensive. Dion's the best version of a stage bachelor, perks to both for sure. You have a wife. So if you're looking for this large portfolio, you've had a spouse. I've had a portfolio of spouses. Does that count? My kids were expensive, just like, yours. I didn't do private school like you're doing. But they are expensive. Laura, so Diego, leaving work right now. I need to watch the beginning from Futureland. I'm going to reach out, Laura, and ask you some questions about Panama because I'm booking that trip now. Probably going to leave beginning of December. And I don't know. First time there, what's your suggestion? I'm thinking a minimum month. I don't like to travel out of the country for less than a month. Probably going to stay until the ORAD event. So I'll be there from beginning of December till February like 14th, and then or whatever, 10th. Fly to Vegas from there. Is there a part of Panama that I should pick? I want to reach out and have maybe a call with you or something, Laura. I mean, you can help me out. Damiola, after you did your build or duplex reno, would you have done a cash refi versus a HELOC to buy another property? So great question. So let me go through the logic chain of this for anybody that's in a similar situation. You own a property and it has some equity in it. So that's the premise. You have a property, it has some equity in it. What I did is I purchased a property cash, something I didn't think I'd ever be able to do. Purchased it cash, but it needed a lot of work. So contractor said 3 months because of the lovely little town of Port Orchard. 10 months later, permit process. It's done. Tenants in place. Lived there a little over a year now. So it looks nice now that it's all done. Would never do it again, right? But that's not the question. The question is, would I do a cash out refinance or HELOC to buy more? So I have a couple of options. So this is anybody who has equity. So maybe you didn't buy it cash, but you've had it for a while. It's appreciated. You've had principal pay down. You have a chunk of equity. So I've got about $700,000. I paid 4, spent 60 something. It's worth 7. So if I sell it, I got the IRS 121 rule because if I sell it, it'll be 2 years there. I won't have any taxes. But I've got that much equity. I could probably take out a $500,000 or $600,000 mortgage. A home equity line of credit makes sense if you are confident that you can pay it off before the rate adjusts, right? So if you have a 10-year fixed HELOC, that means can you pay it off in 10 years? Some are 5, some are 7. Each lender is different. So that's the HELOC can make sense. The cash out refinance. So for me, since there's no mortgage on it, I don't have any existing debt to mess with. It would just be a mortgage. If you have a mortgage on a property and you have existing equity, and you do a cash out refinance, you turn the current mortgage, which if you refinanced or purchased in 2020, you have a 3% mortgage or less, and you do a cash out refinance. Now it's going to turn all of your debt into a 6 or a 7%. So you don't want to do that. So then I recommend a second position mortgage with a little bit higher rate, but it leaves the first debt alone. So then the third thing is I could sell in 1031. So you could sell in 1031. Before you touch the equity, because that was the how would you touch the equity? Before you touch it, the thing is, do you know that you could get a deal that would justify the added debt? Right. So I've got this paid off property. It's worth, I don't know, everybody says more than seven, but I'm going to say conservatively 700,000. I'm living for free. I have a tenant living there, paying me to live there. I could not touch it, not put any debt, and I just keep recycling the cash flow because I'm not in growth mode. So me personally, I don't think I plan on it. If interest rates drop low enough and I see deals that I can go for, I might put a mortgage on it. So it's a maybe for me. If I was in growth mode, I never would have purchased a place cash unless I planned on purchase and cash out refinance, do the BRRRR method, actual buy, rehab, rent out, refinance, repeat. That would have been the plan. But I'm not a fan of that, especially in the first like 5 or 6 deals. Get your investing legs under you first. I had somebody ask me recently if they should sell a property and you take the money and buy something else. So here's the question. If you own a property and you had a certain debt, certain mortgage on it, and you owed a certain amount on it, but you have a bunch of equity, you could sell it and buy something else. If the house across the street was identical, it's like a mirror image, exact same house, same neighborhood, same layout, same everything, and it was for sale today for exactly what you paid for the first one, and you could buy it with the same interest rate you had on the first one, would you buy that house? And the answer from this person was yes. Well, if the answer is that you would buy this asset, why would you sell that asset if you already own it? So it's how would I touch the debt? But I wouldn't touch the debt unless I knew I can get a deal that justified the loss of the asset or the added debt to the existing asset. And for me, so far, consistently, the answer has been no. Even in 2021, when interest rates weren't going up yet, they'd started to trickle back up, but they weren't past 4 yet. Matt and Zuber, who growth-wise are obviously more successful than me, were both badgering me like friends to put a mortgage on my one paid off property, the one where I lost $1 million, because then I would have cash for the next deal and interest rates are low. They're not going to go down again, but I wasn't in growth mode. I'm not growth guy like they are. So I didn't do it, even with them suggesting that I do. Dividend Dave, thank you for the super chat. I'd make a donkey dad joke, but I don't want to make an ass out of myself. Nice. That got another chuckle in the room. Good. Good job, Dave. Uh, there you go. Keep them coming. That was a good one. Thank you for the super chat. It's much appreciated. It lets YouTube know that somebody else likes the content. Maybe 2 somebodies. I'm sorry. Good to see you. Sorry for the job loss. Glad you're back on track. There you go. Did I meet you in Vegas? Yeah, that was JNYC. It would be kind of hard because it would be name association, right? We all need like a YouTube name and then a real name. Victor, howdy. What did you wish you knew before moving into your first house hack duplex? Any things you had to learn the hard way before you had systems in place? That is a good question. What did I wish I knew before the house hack? I learned one of them just before the house hack. Before buying the house hack and I moved into an apartment and rented out the house, I had this stupid thought of I can't trust a stranger because I'm not a real landlord yet. So I don't want to rent to a stranger. I better rent to a friend. And since I'm renting to a friend, I don't need a lease because it's a friend. And he's a single parent, just like me. And so when rent was late, I thought, oh, I understand it's tight with money. And then rent late became never. So I didn't understand that when you start the day you start making hunting for deals, you're a landlord. So picture this person over here and they say, okay, I want to buy a rental property. So what do I got to do? I got to learn how to save, work on my credit score, and talk to lenders. All right. And then you pick this person over here. I have 5 rentals. I've been doing this 10 years. Which one of them should have a lease? Which one of them should know their screening criteria for tenants? There's no difference. The person who's starting to save to buy a rental should be looking for a lease, should understand how long does an eviction take in my area. should understand, okay, what credit score makes it most likely that somebody's going to pay their rent. Whether you have 5 rentals and you've been doing it for 10 years or you're starting out, you need to have the same systems in place. Treat your properties like you have 100 and your tenants like 1. This makes things so much simpler. If you had 100, you'd have a lease. If you had 1, do you need a lease? Can you just go talk to the tenant? You'd probably be all right. But is that safe? Now, if you have a lease and you understand your local system and how long an eviction is going to take, that can adjust how much reserves you want. So starting out from the beginning, I think the thing that I wish I'd known is your landlord as soon as you start. Like, it doesn't take several rentals and several years of experience to make you a landlord. Thinking that means that your first few years are going to suck because you're going to make all those mistakes that you don't think you need to know because you're not a landlord. Then there's a ton of other things that I learned, but that's probably one of the things that stood out the most. I wish I knew to put in landlord policies on utilities. I wish I knew things I wish I knew when I started. I wish I knew how depreciation worked. When you house hack a duplex, you get to depreciate 50% of it because you're occupying 50% of it. You still have the tax write-off of a home office and all the other, utilities that are related to your business and those kind of things. But I wish I knew some of that sooner. I think my first few years with taxes, I used like an H&R Block, something Jones person over the counter that didn't know what they were doing. And I probably lost money in those first couple of years because it wasn't done right. Then I got an actual CPA that does taxes and realized I don't want to know how all that stuff works. I just want to know it's important enough to have a pro do it. I wish I knew how much people sucked. That's in everything. Jobs, relationships, rents, rentals, everything. I learned the hard way. That's the school of hard knocks. I don't think I found YouTube University and BiggerPockets and one rental at a time soon enough. I think a lot of it I tried to figure out myself and go to people like my brother or my friend with 30 rentals and figure out what they're doing and think, okay, can I do that? Neither one of them doing the strategy that I wanted to do. Instead of finding somebody who's gone out and said, okay, I'm working full time, I need a mortgage, I'm a house hack, it's going to take 10 years. How do I find the information on that? And that's on YouTube in different formats and some information from different people. But definitely self-education. I wish I'd found out that sooner. Like my first year, I did the math one time. I think I lost $6,000 renting out a house that I'd owned for 10 years at that point. I'd had already 10 years. So I had a mortgage from 10 years ago, pretty low mortgage. I just did everything so wrong. I lost money because I did not educate myself. In 2010, I never would have watched a video like this. I just, why not? Now I watch these all the time. I think it was around 2015. I just started absorbing all content, all podcasts, audiobooks, anything related to this, thinking, okay, I'm not going to do everything that this person does, but there's going to be something they say that makes this better and easier. Kind of, if you get into kayaking, you can take a kayaking course. You're going to learn how to do a roll. You get a scuba, you're going to take a course, right? If you got into scuba and you started traveling to the places that I've gone to for scuba diving, you're probably going to watch some content on what scuba diving there is like, right? If you've lived in the US, right, you got percentages. Then you go over to Thailand or the UK and you got bars. What's a bar? So you take that time to educate yourself on something you enjoy. I enjoy the financial freedom. And this is here's a moment of clear transparency. I don't enjoy rental properties. I don't enjoy being a landlord. I don't enjoy the dealing with the cities. I don't enjoy the legislations. I don't enjoy the fact that people are voting people into office who hate that I can make money from something like this. But nobody hates restaurants. People hate people who profit from housing, but you don't profit from people who need to eat. Like, I don't get it. But I like the freedom that comes from it. And 2 hours a month is a much easier trade-off than 50 to 60 hours a week. And I see that the chat moved, which I appreciate, means there's more chats there. Ariana, howdy. Are there any disadvantages to collecting rent via Cash App? So there's disadvantages to collecting rent in everything. Almost every format for taking in rents, there's a way for a tenant to try to screw you over. Even if they give you just cash, I can't think you can give you counterfeit bills. Like there's a way to get this. So screen your tenants good. I use Cash App, Venmo, Apple Pay, PayPal. The three things that matter when I collect rents. First one, to make it easy on the tenant. Second is I want a paper trail. It can be electronic. It can be a check. It can be, if they give me cash, I send them an email saying I received this much money from you today. Third is I want to save myself a trip to the bank. So while there are disadvantages, it is something that I do. We've had people at the company that I work at with write a check to pay for CDL training, go through the school, 4 weeks, then their bank pulled the money, canceling it almost a month later. Like I can understand a couple days, but a month. So even checks. Now cashier's checks less risky, but how many rentals do you have and how much time do you want to spend collecting your rents? Me, it's mostly checking that the rent's collected, except for the two now who paid in cash, which is weird. Only one of them is covered in glitter. Well, thrilling journey. Yes, it was definitely a blur. A whole lot happened in that week. It's funny because I try to catch myself so that I never say anything that's not true. And I just want to, because I never want to have to remember anything I've said. And I say, since I retired in 22, I don't have a job and I have an alarm clock. I wake up when I want to. I take a nap anytime I want. I have never been tired since I retired. But I have to caveat that with that week in Vegas, with those midnight Denny's meetings and the meetings during the day, and then going to the strip and recording videos with Millennial Mike and Matt, with the people on the street. And then the event, like, yeah, I was wiped out that week. So I've not been exhausted since 2022 because of work. But that 1 week, does that count? I think there was another super chat from Chester. Howdy, thank you for that. Why? Okay. Why did the donkey get into real estate investing? Because it really wanted to have a whole bunch of assets. That's a pretty good one. You should see the text chains with my son. I told him, what did I tell him the other day? He eats a lot of protein shakes. I should tell him he should never, 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 I forget it. It's too long of a dad joke. Here we go. JNYC probably did meet. We were all at the brewery. Oops, I mean REI meetup Sunday night. There you go. Mike 99 in Arizona on my second house hack, renting my first paid off house. Now paying this one off, hoping to find another home to live in and rent my current. That's a cool strategy. I really like it. Fewer properties paid off can get you financial freedom sooner. Sometimes I think it's depending on your income and your cash flow and your timeline and all that. I'm not upset and I don't regret, but it was a mistake paying off one of my properties. But for you, that sounds like you're doing what you want to do. So that works too. James, you should have seen it. There was a picture in the ORAD Facebook group of the donkey choking cash. It was good. And Dave came in at the best time. Yep. I came in at choke the donkey. Gonna have to catch that on the rewatch. Exactly. That means now you have to come up with a dad joke about cash flow and donkeys. And it took you that long to come up with it. Good. I like it. Liz, are DSCR loans sustainable? Do you have any? What are your thoughts on them? So yeah, they're absolutely sustainable. They're fixed rate debt. And they can be fixed rate debt. They can be adjustable too. They are sustainable. I almost acquired a property with a DSCR loan, ended up not getting it. If it's fixed rate debt, I'll do it. What I don't want is several things that can be wrong with commercial or DSCR asset-based lending. One, I don't want an adjustable rate. Two, I don't want a loan reevaluation period. And I don't want a sustainability number. So the loan reevaluation period might look at your property in a year where you have lease renewals or an eviction or something, and you don't have the NOI to support the loan. I don't want to have to, I want to fire a mortgage, never think about it unless rates drop so much, I refinance. I'm a fan of DSCR loans. I've seen a few times now, I think two that I can remember, where DSCR interest rates were lower than conventional. So it's not always worse. It's like 99.9% of the time worse, but it can be same or lower. So I would shop loans. It's a little bit different. So DSCR, the benefits, doesn't look at your work history. So I probably could have done this sooner in the beginning because I was establishing work history. Doesn't look at your salary or your income. I was establishing that too. I needed rental income to get around my debt to income ratio. Doesn't look at your debt to income ratio. Like DSCR loans have several benefits. They do look at your credit score, and they do look at your net worth. And so most DSCR lenders require that your net worth be at least 50% of what you're borrowing. And several that I've talked to want your net worth to be 100% of what you're borrowing. It's one of my dad's favorite jokes. He used to say, banks will tell you there's no way I can lend you money. You need it, which now makes total sense. Why would you lend money to somebody who needs it? You lend it to somebody who can use it to produce more than it is so that you get paid back. If they need it, they're probably not good with it. So I don't have any. I know Matt and Zuber have used several DSCR loans. He's got Convoy Home Loans, goes on and talks on one rental at a time. Velocity Mortgage. They've got some strategies with the 50-40-10 that you can do where it's 50% loan to value through a DSCR loan, 40% seller carry, and then 10% you bring to the table. So there's a lot more creative ways to use DSCR loans. So I don't dismiss them. I'm just super boring and super lazy. All of my mortgages that I've gotten so far from a lender, right? First few from a bank, then through mortgage companies. I have some very specific videos on how to shop better rates and better buy down, because it's not always just rates, it's rates and terms. But I did one time make an offer with a DSCR loan, which was interesting because I had to come up with my personal financial statement, which I've never had to make before. So I had to reach out to Matt and go, hey, how do I be a grown up and do this thing? And what else was weird with that one? No, that was it. It was the personal finance. It was kind of cool to make it to go. So I've invested $320,000. How did that turn into over, $3.5 million in equity? That was when it was like an eye-opening. It's like owning rentals is good. Andy, howdy. Lumberjack landlord. Thank you, Matt. Will make my story a lot more interesting whenever I can get interviewed by any of you after succeeding my journey. We want to interview along the journey too. Gabriel, howdy. Does age of house matter to you when looking to purchase? So there's a couple things to consider with age of house. First is if it's before 1979, you have to consider possible asbestos, possible lead paint. It's not a deal breaker. It just means you're going to have, in your inspection, look for that. You're going to have the lead-based paint waiver with your tenants, some of those things. You could have to do a remediation, so make sure you have the right insurance, make sure you have the right reserves. What matters the most to me with the age of building is two things. One, I don't want a building that's 15 years or younger because they generally don't cash flow. I've not seen any, not even small multifamily. And two, when were updates done? I want updates done within 30 years. Right. So I want no knob and tube wiring. I want when possible, mostly I want PEX plumbing. I think I've got some that have a lot of copper. So it's not so much age of building. Age of building is considered with lead and asbestos. So I've got 2 properties from before 1979. So I do consider that. The rest of mine are between 84 and 92. So it's like the window of the right cash flowing properties where that age bracket. And that's my market: Pacific Northwest, Washington State, Pierce and Thurston County, now Kitsap. And actually, I don't think I'm in Kitsap today. On the other side of the water. What is normal in your market? If you're on the East Coast, right, under a 50-year-old house is almost unheard of. Matt's got properties from the 1800s. I believe that's true. Money. Dion, if you plan on vacation in India, please let me know. Would love to help. That is so. Where would I go in India? I'm kind of fascinated with Indian culture. I watched Jaspreet Singh, Minority Mindset. He's from India. His parents are from Punjab. Talks about it often. For some reason, he has to tell you the name of a ponytail and a mustache in Punjab every time he says it. It's like his thing, which is cool. But he really takes, like, he does a better job. So I won't try to even paraphrase. India culture is to make $1 to save 80 cents, and American culture is to make $1 to spend $1.20. And some other things that he says that just really resonate. And so, yeah, what's the best part of India to travel to? Is there scuba in India? And I went to school in Merca. They don't teach us a lot. Esther, howdy. How to get out from accepted offers without losing the earnest money without spending on home inspections. So You don't need a home inspection. A home inspection period does not require that you get a home inspection. A home inspection period means period of time. It's not a period like a dot, it's a period of time. In that period of time, you get to go look at the house, you get to smell the house, you get to walk in the house if you want to, or you can have an inspector do all of that and give you a report. And anything in that you decide that you don't want it, you get to back out and not lose your earnest money. Are you within your inspection period, that time frame that you, so if you make an offer on a triplex out in Bremerton and then you find out with your research that a lot of it was not legally done and not permitted with the city, and you're just like, okay, I want out. You do not have to spend money on an inspection to know that. If you found that out by calling the city, you then pull your offer and get your money back. Not that that was a very specific deal to give you, but just in case. Good question. And because it says inspection contingency, people think an inspection is required, and it's not. Gabriel Gonzalez, not really. The structural quality matters more than the age. Lumberjack, age is nothing but a number. Tell that to Millennial Mike. It's like the Millennial Mike and Rose from the Titanic, and he says, make room for me. And she says, I'm 27, and he just floats off and freezes. That's how that would go. Ben, howdy, Mick. Do you have interest in catamaran sailboat cruising? It's basically a drinking barge. I have a hookup near St. John if you are interested. I might be interested in it if somebody else was doing it. My few experiences with sailing, right? I had a small dinghy and I did lake sailing in Southern California. I could flip anything. Got really good at taking a mast off upside down. But maybe, yeah. Last 2023, when I was purchasing, I thought several times about buying a liveaboard boat instead of a house because I wanted to live on the water, and couldn't find a slip. All the slips that around the area that I wanted to live were 2 to 10 year wait lists to maybe have a slip for liveaboard. So I ended up buying a duplex on the water to live on the water and live for free. Maybe though. Sarah. Literally kept me grounded mentally when you're that analogy last week. Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. Ricky, talking about you. Ricky, we're supposed to be making a binder strategy. Ben, how do you pay your attorney lawyers retainer, or do you just pay them individually for transaction projects like editing a lease? Sorry, my question isn't more lazy. That's a great question. And it is very lazy. The idea is the lazy person does a lot of the prep up front. And so I do retainer. I have a retainer with my attorney. Had them look at the lease. This was really cheap. It was like 15 minutes build or something like that to add some verbiage to the lease to cut for our court system. So that's what I recommend. And I learned this from my brother. He takes his lease to an attorney and says, hey, if we're ever going to go through an eviction together, what would you like in this lease? Then they put it in there. So it's not, look at my lease, tell me what you think. It's make them important. What's going to make your job easier? And I do retainer. So it's basically it's $1,500 that I gave to an attorney. Check in with him once in a while. If I ever go through an eviction, that'll at least start the process, more than likely finish it. Have I used my attorney for? I have used my attorney not for real estate, and I had it taken out of the retainer, and then I just filled the retainer back up. So I always have the 1,500 there. But I needed a letter served with the attorney's letterhead on a private matter that would go better if the information was coming from an official looking source. I'm one of those guys who did not have an attorney in any of my divorces. And I'm also one of those guys who kept custody of his kids in all of his divorces. Because in divorce court, the only person making money is the attorney. And the only way they make money is by making arguments. You have to get your clients to disagree to get billable hours. JNYC, obviously, if you purchased a duplex that already had tenants in both, you can't buy as owner occupied, please, unless there's some way around it. Yes, you can. So a tenant that is renting has a lease. You're bound by the existing lease. And there are a couple of ways, depending on your state, around that. You can give 90-day notice to move if you're going to sell. You can give 60-day notice to move if you're going to renovate. You can give 20-day notice if you're not going to renew a lease. Like, know your local laws. But owner-occupied purchasing is one of the ways to get a tenant out. Now, do you want to go through an eviction and kick somebody out to break their lease? Because that could be it. What I've done, so I purchased a duplex, one side was vacant, That was easy. Purchased the fourplex, it was completely occupied. And here's my moment to talk because some of my tenants watch my content. Here you go. This is how it works behind the scenes. I'm human. I went to the fourplex. I met people for the inspection. I met people for the appraisal. And my interactions with 4 units, 3 of them were positive. One of them lied to me, said they were the property manager, so they got a discount on their rent. The seller showed me the estoppel with their rent payments, which had no reduction. They smoked in the unit. They had pets that weren't on the lease, like all these things. I was like, oh, I know who I'm kicking out. So I went to them with a, hey, you're on a month-to-month lease. Here's your notice that I'm buying this owner occupied. I'm moving in. You have to move out. I understand this can suck. So how about I give you some what are called cash for keys? Now, if you just give money to somebody, a tenant that already lied to you and doesn't like you and is already breaking the lease in a few different ways, they might not move out and then you'd have an eviction. So what I did is I said, how about I help you by paying the deposit wherever you move? So yeah, a little bit more cost to acquire on my property to pay the deposit for them to move to the new place. Guy actually sat on the ground and cried because nobody ever helped them with anything in their life. It wasn't that they were moving, as it was somebody was helping them. And then it was a full what are my processes for? So kills, paint the walls, remove all the flooring, paint the walls, remove the blinds and screens because they all smell like smoke. Sacrifice a goat, finish painting, put in LVP flooring and ozone machine for 3 days, and then see if you need another 3 days. You can rent those to get rid of the smell. So that was my process of kicking somebody out of their house. And yes, the laws are designed for owner-occupied purchases. Wealth building journey then took back a message to make me lose sleep forever and ever. That you were too embarrassed to leave there. I love it. Andy, question: how would you handle charging for utilities if you house hacked an ADU that can't split the utilities? Would you install some subrating or work a deal with the tenant? So it's actually one of my criteria for buying a place is that it is separately metered or has the ability to be separately metered. So let's say I found a deal that was just so good I could get it and the city wouldn't let me put in 2 meters and it wasn't really designed for it. It's not a situation I would want. I don't ever want to have tenants in place where they have the doors open and the heater's on. No thanks. I don't want that stress. So you can word your lease by contact your utility company and say, I need historical data on the utility payments for these properties. Say this is the average. Tell the tenants, this is what your rent is. Utilities are included. If utilities go above this amount, then there's going to be an extra charge for you. Put it in your lease. Don't know if you'd be able to hold that up in court to actually get the money from them, but it at least makes them kind of conscious on maybe I don't want to spend a bunch because if we go over the threshold, I can get an extra bill. Sometimes in writing gives you the perceived power, and power perceived is power achieved, even if it's not real. So I do have tenants where they want the water. The city won't let me bill the tenants. The city bills the owner no matter what. So I have a flat rate, as my camera about falls off the table. I have a flat rate that they pay, and it's in the lease. If it goes above an amount, then the amount can go up. And that flat rate is a little bit higher than the payment. So let's say water was $50 a month, they pay like 65 or something like that. So that in the months where it's that amount, it's good. And in the summer months when the water spikes up, I'm okay with paying a little extra because they paid a little extra the rest of the time. But yeah, I would definitely install separate meters if possible. JNYC, I wish Zuber had written Rich Dad. I would have allowed me to start sooner. And it creates a roadmap rather than Rich Guy that just planned the idea. Yeah. I've heard that a lot. Rich Dad Poor Dad is not a how-to. It's a theory book. It's a mind-opening book. Then it's what hits most people. And really, as much controversy as she has caused recently, I blame Oprah. Rich Dad Poor Dad wrote his book, and it got a few copies sold. And then he got on Oprah, and her power of social media back in the 97 blew that book up. So I'll thank her for that and not thank her for her current endorsements. And Dave, yeah, you do. Julie, howdy. Finally going to do a lawyer tomorrow to set up a trust. Can anyone give input on things I should make sure are covered? That's a good question. My brother did a trust. If I cared anything at all about my kids, I'd probably do one. I haven't done one yet. So what is covered in a trust? Because remember, a trust protects your heirs. That's the goal of the trust. This is what I would consider, Julie, and one of the reasons why making a trust really hasn't mattered to me. I don't even know if it should matter to my brother. So the idea is, if let's just say I'll use myself because I don't want to talk about you, but let's say I passed away today and my kids inherited all my properties. They wouldn't know what to do with them. They'd just sell them and go into probate. They'd all get sold to get a check, right? So let's say I take the time and I put them in a trust. My kids don't know what to do with them. They'd set it in probate. Nothing changes. Nothing changes. If you put it in a trust and you make you and your kids officers of the trust, will that spark interest for them to actually learn how to keep reserves, screen a tenant, interact with tenants, find a handyman, do maintenance? Like, that's what it takes to inherit a portfolio, the knowledge, not the legality. That's why I haven't done a trust. My kids just don't care. It's better that it goes to probate and gets sold and they just get money that they blow. That would be more than I got. I inherited, only one of the things I inherited is with me today. I inherited a 12 gauge shotgun, which you don't take to a resort with you, and then a 44 Magnum. Bill, I wish Rich Dad wasn't crazy on YouTube. His stuff now is a little, it's one of those things where I think Robert Kiyosaki thinks he's 15 years older than he is. And he's already older, right? But there's a certain age where we get sold, we can say anything we want, and we don't care what people think. He did that when he hit about 60. Because he's got two really good books, maybe three. First one, Rich Dad Poor Dad, I Will Retire Young. That's a good one. And then Why A Students Work for C Students. That's good. Cash Flow Quadrant. That's good. But he's got like 17 books now. I only like those 3 or 4. Cash Flow Quadrant. That's a good book. Howdy, REI Jared. Good to see you here. You miss my white beard. I was going to do blue. What do you think? Blue. Stripes. Like zebra? White boards. There you go. Karen, so whiteboards. I have a whiteboard. I need to do it. My problem with the whiteboard, so I've made a couple of videos with whiteboards and why I don't like to do them. I'll explain a concept. Here's how, because of depreciation and mortgages, I don't pay taxes. 20 minutes, right? All the numbers, all clearly just my whole life, boom, on the whiteboard. And some goobtard, it's a real word, from Louisiana will point out a fractional math error on like some tiny little line for something that doesn't matter and rant for paragraph after paragraph after paragraph. Because what I'm trying to help you with is the concept. I'm not a math teacher. I don't want you to be good at math. I want you to be good at fuzzy math. I don't care what the yield is on my properties. I just want to know that it's better than the average yield. And then if I wasn't making videos or doing whiteboards, I would have no idea what the yield is on any of my properties. I just know the cash flow. But when you do a whiteboard, maybe it helps people that like the concept teaching, because it's harder when it's just words. I totally get it. Like recently, I did one. I thought I should have whiteboarded it. I forget what the topic was. But the whiteboard takes away because people look for the flaw instead. And the concept doesn't have a flaw, but my math did. Bill, but it makes it hard to tell people go read Rich Dad. It does. Tell them to read Cash Flow Quadrant. Understanding the quadrants changes the way you see the world. Did you post those interview recordings somewhere? I saw one of them. I posted a few. I do need to go through and do more. I kind of stopped doing edited content and went to just live only format. So I do need to get those up. I still have them. I should get them up. Kris, late to it, damn W2, but doing cardio while watching. Nice. Kudos to you. Because my voice, I try to talk so slow because I've got to get words together and in ways that can be retained, and that takes a second. When I do cardio, I put on a show like Ballers or 24 or something that has like fast pace all the time because that keeps you moving. So I don't have the ability to talk faster to make you work out better. Karen, having a difficult time finding anyone above a 650 credit score. Suggestions. Look at credit history and suggest co-signers. That's what I do when they don't meet my credit requirements. Look at credit history. If you can have a justifiable, because the idea is you don't want to be sued for discrimination. Let's say one person has a 600, another person has a 660. You took the 600 over the 660 because you didn't like the 660. Do you not like that because of something that is discrimination? Or can you look at credit history and go, okay, this person has a 600, but they had a divorce within 6 months or a divorce within a year, or they had medical bills or something that you can go, that's why I looked around the credit score. And then cosigners. Cosigners is my go-to solution for most things. In most places, I don't know if it's required, but it's required for me that if I have a cosigner, I have the cosigner's signature notarized. That's a bit of a difference that I do there. Rich Hilarious had an offer on a property for 430. Appraisal came back at 495. Putting 5% down, so the loan balance is 82.5. Is it possible to get rid of my PMI if I aggressively pay till 80 loan to value? It would depend on your lender and what their minimum requirement for PMI is as far as duration goes. And find out if they will accept that appraisal in the PMI factor, right? When they're looking at what your loan to value is. Because sometimes that's to acquire the loan. It would be very lender specific. I assume the bank would value the house at the appraised value, not the value of the loan. It's usually at their appraised value, but they might want a new appraisal. And just because you have an appraisal at a certain amount doesn't mean the next one's guaranteed to be that amount too. Laura, Dion, sorry, I didn't want to text and drive. I'm home now and I'm emailing you my phone. And the places you and the local connections for scuba. I can also be a tour guide. Bring your Tabasco sauce. Also, the food is like a Colombian a little. I will definitely bring Tabasco sauce. Not that Colombian food is bad. I just like the spice, which was a shock to me to find a Latin culture that was not into the spicy spice. And I see my chat moved. There we go. Journey, Mumbai, New Delhi. Adios, amigos. Great to catch you live. Chowzi. Cabragoon. Cabulous. Inspection is always recommended, especially for a newbie. So yes, inspections are recommended. She was asking, how do I get out if I don't want to have an inspection? Like she saw something she didn't like and she wanted out, you can get out. I have still never purchased a property without an inspection. Now, Matt, the lumberjack landlord, does after having done so many renos and having all the knowledge that he has. I don't want that knowledge. I want a pro to look and give me a to-do list and give me a negotiation tool. Yeah. Oliver, what is your advice if you find out your tenant goes into bankruptcy like Chapter 7, but still paying rent on time? Should be worried about a need to do something as a landlord. So if they're a tenant and they went into bankruptcy, I wouldn't worry as long as they paid the next rent. Be ready for an eviction like regular, like normal. Have your reserves, have your attorney on retainer. There are some lenders out there that target people with bankruptcies for lending because you have so many years before you can do it again. And filing bankruptcy has usually cleared up enough to give the person the resources to handle things like rent. I would look into something like Hemlane has now, where you collect rent in such a way that can help them establish their credit. Why I don't invest in Oregon. The Oregon allowable annual rent increase in 2025 is 10%. Unless it's an owner-occupied small multifamily, then it's not house hacked. 10%, So here's the difference, Jared, why Oregon might not be so bad. I'll go years without raising the rent. My brother's got people from, no kidding, this kills me, 2006 paying the same rent. But if the limit is 10%, my hands would be tied. I'd have to do 10% every year. There's no way I'd fall behind. I'd make a lot more money with rent control. Money. Oh, yes, you can scuba dive in Lochshaw Dweep. If you want to party, GOA is your place. If you want history, Delhi is nice. If you want mountain towns, Shimla, Assam, Uto are nice. Nice. I will have to check that out. So here's a couple of things I like to do. One, I like to go places where the dollar's stronger, so it gives you more for your dollar. And two, I like to go places where they don't hate Americans, like universally just hate Americans. What's that perception? You just came back from Cyprus, Laura. The Mediterranean Sea is amazing. Dion, I brought you your scuba brochures. Nice. People are super nice and almost everyone speaks English. That helps. Like I said before, I thought I spoke Spanish until I got to Colombia. Then I learned no habla español. No hablo. Cabragoon, have you ever caught yourself with any bad habits with all the extra time? Or are there any regimens you do for sanity maintenance? Physical routine is important, working or not. And I don't do enough cardio, probably should. That goal's never to be skinny. There's something, nobody's going to agree with me on this. Women don't like to date a guy skinnier than them. They just don't. So I don't want to be too skinny. I do. So this is mostly meant in jest, right? As a Marine, it is my duty as a part of the male species to be able to unalive somebody by breaking their neck, which takes 64 pounds of pressure in a very specific quick jerking motion, and that takes upper body strength. So I have a regimented 500 push-ups every other day. It's a pyramid, right? So it sounds like a lot, but it's not. You do 30, 29, 28. So by the time your arms are like shaking, you're doing 5, 4. So the upper body strength to me is what's important. We'll do groundwork with law enforcement, so keep current on that. I think the person who's going to go insane is the person who just sits around and does nothing. And you turn on the remote to everything. Sure, get a treadmill, get an elliptical, right? The comment earlier, doing cardio while I'm listening. And don't sedentary. But it's not like retiring makes this a problem. How many people have a desk job where the most physical activity they have is carrying stuff from their car to their house? Working or not working, should have a physical. You should, I mean, maybe get one of those things, monitor your steps every day and have a goal. What's your goal on steps every day? I have a thing with these. I don't even have that turned on, so I wouldn't even bother. But if I didn't have a physical routine, I would do that. So the bad habits that I try to watch in retirement: losing all track of time, not knowing what day it is. The Tuesday live streams actually help me kind of go, okay, it's a week, like a week is happening, because every day is the same. You do whatever you want every day. And so if you break it down like this isn't going to sound like a lot. So hey Siri, what is 21,000 divided by 30?
21,000 divided by 30 is 700.
All right, so let's say I went somewhere today and I don't spend any money. I just don't do anything. There's $700 more in my account at the end of the day than there was when I started. How do you explain that to somebody who goes to work for a paycheck, that every day $700, when it comes in lump sums throughout the month, is added to the account without having to sell my life 1 hour at a time? So once you have that time freedom to do anything, what is the anything that you want to do? Sometimes it's nothing, right? This is a no pants day, like today. Let's say this is a day I'm not going to go anywhere, do anything. But how many of those before you're like, okay, I'm actually wasting time? Because while I do have 365 Fridays in a year instead of 52, you only have so many years. What are the things you like to do? I talk about scuba a lot, but a lot of times scuba, it's like, okay, I could scuba in the Sound, Puget Sound, go out under the Narrows Bridge, right? But there's scuba in Portugal and Florida and Thailand and Colombia and what's Panama that's coming up. I'm just scuba diving, but it's also traveling and experiencing a new culture and figuring out what foods I'm okay with and what foods I'm not, and what people I'm okay with, right? What was that? What was the thing I said? It's two things I hate: racists and Cambodians. That's what it was. But I like to go out and experience. You can't experience culture on YouTube. You have to go be immersed in another country's day to day. Go to Colombia during Santa Semana and watch parades of what looks like KKK members with the white hoods walking up and down every street to realize that doesn't have the same connotation that it does in the US here. Yeah. So sanity maintenance is important. There are some people who benefit from therapy, whether they are working or not. They're physical, it's the same. REI Jared says an angel needs its wings. Every time you hit the like button, an angel needs its wings. Indians make $1 to spend 20 cents. Save 80 cents. Yeah, same thing. Americans make $1 to spend 2. That's probably accurately what he says. Howdy, financial firefighter. Getting dizzy. I think he's trying to do some Dionism mind trick on us. Probably. Cabragoon, you're right. Hell no, no utilities. It's bad enough we have to do water in Northeast, Southern Massachusetts. Yep. Deconstructing Dreams, a financial journey. Yep, late again, but still made it. Time for 2X. Hope y'all having a great day. There you go. And we have a course call at 6 o'clock tonight. Ninja Vanish, revocable living trust. There you go. We're going to ever think of putting your experience to pages? I'm a part-time realtor and still get a lot of wisdom from your stuff. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's the whole point. Sharing this. Yes, I actually have a deal with Zuber to write the Financial Freedom for the Lazy Person book and publish it under the one rental at a time umbrella. Which I'm super happy to do that with him. The problem is, it's in the title, Lazy Person. I have the outline, and here's the thing that some people might not like with the book. There are books that tell you, like one rental at a time. It's the 15-year journey of what they went through and how they managed each part. So you get all the points of what can happen in a recession, what can happen in a crash, what do you do, how do you pivot from one asset class to another? You get all that kind of stuff, right? I would love to be an author. I'm an avid book. I should show you my Audible account. There's over 600 books on it. I listen to books all the time. So I love good books. I would love to write a book, like a fantasy novel, right? Something suspense, through it doesn't matter. Just be a writer, but I'm not. So when I write my book, it's going to read like a stereo instruction manual. Like there'll be a chapter, how to screen tenants. Here's the goal. Here's the strategies to achieve the goals. Here's the pitfalls. Like, not quite. Let me tell you the time I screened a tenant and this went wrong. I mean, it's going to say, here is how you check credit. Here's the resources you go to find someone's credit score. Here's the aspects of credit history that can make me, like, it's just going to break down. So it's not going to be for everybody. It's going to be for the few people on the planet that are like me. They want to be able to grab a book and go, okay, I have a tenant turnover coming up. Where's that chapter on how to prepare for tenant turnover? Like that, the month before the tenant moves out, what do I do? Then, okay, tenants moved out. What do I do with the tenant's deposit? What do I do with that space between tenant leaving and tenant coming? Like, all just broke down. Like I said, an instruction manual. So yes, definitely looking at doing that. I just have to break the lazy. Kiyosaki in his late 70s, I want to say 76. Yeah, he was a pilot in Vietnam, so he's a bit older. All night hider. The trustees would manage the trust. The beneficiaries just benefit as long as, right. But most people make a trust and it's just them. All night hider. Like my brother, it's him and then the officers are his son and his daughter. And until like a couple years ago, his son had never had a rental. Finally purchased one. So maybe my kids don't have any. There are no trust managers that are going to manage my properties. That's why it doesn't work. Mid 80s. Yeah, he's older, but he definitely went down the crazy rabbit hole. Yes, Goobtard and Louisa Bama, all words. They are. They convey a thought. To be clear, I haven't watched this video yet, but Josh has a great channel. Josh is George Gamon's research assistant. Nice. I will have to check that out later. Thanks. Mumbai and New Delhi are popular places in India. Nice. I will have to put that because I want to actually, based on some recommendations, I don't know if I'm going to the Philippines. We'll see. Freedom Works. The Dadho Investor by Monish Pabrai is a fantastic book that tells the story of why Indian immigrants become wealthy in America with a strong bent towards real estate. Nice. Jaspreet says his parents said you could be a doctor, a lawyer, or failure. It's in work optional lifestyle. True. Yep. Julie, true about too skinny thing. There you go. Awesome. The too weak is also a thing too. I think that can be a problem. So I don't think if so for my daughters, I don't think I'd want them to ever either one of them to date a guy skinnier than them because they'd be dead. And I don't want them to ever date a guy who's weaker than them. They're both good shots. So the guy could not have to be as good a shot. Freedom Works. I retired, or girl, I don't judge. I retired to whiskey, cocaine, and strippers from my first retirement. Be careful. That's why that sounds good. Huh? That's why work optional is better than retirement. I have to work at something. I have to work at something or trouble will find me. Hey, you got to know yourself. I don't have that problem. What is my downfall? Gaming. Probably game too much, maybe. But it's how I hang out with my son. It's how I hang out with my friends that game that live far away. And I do enjoy knowing that I just murked somebody in a game when there's somebody in Korea throwing their keyboard against the wall. Like things to live for. Paychecks are like sugar and cocaine. They're all highly addictive and in the long run, they're all bad for you. Dionism. Nice. I like it. Cocaine's one I have not tried yet. Don't think I will. Andy, ever thought about streaming yourself playing a new video game you're hyped about? I don't know about a new one because there's a lot of cussing. Um, maybe a new expansion to a game that I'm already playing that I'm good at. There's a lot of people who do really good on Twitch. Like that's where you stream games. I haven't even watched Twitch. I don't have an active Twitch account. I do watch videos on YouTube on like I can't figure this thing out in a game. How do I do this? But most maybe the streaming thing, most of the game videos that I watch are highly edited. You need to see specific parts of the game with what's going on. I don't want to edit stuff. Capricorn, you're also lazy. Lazy is a superpower. Yep. Ricky, simple and straight to the point. Thoughts on investing in places like Gary, Luke? I almost did it. In 2022, so I really became close friends with Millennial Mike. We spent a lot of time together. I love what he's doing. He's doing really good, solid things there. And in 2022, I thought, okay, my money's building up. I've retired. I'm going to buy the next property. It's either going to be another house hack here in Washington, or if I don't find a deal within like a year, I'm going to jump onto Millennial Mike's coattails and use his systems and people in place and invest in Gary, put my money to work. Because I had like $500,000. The weirdest thing for me, literally 2010, $89,000 in bad debt, $17 an hour, single parent with 3 kids. Like saying I have $500,000 in the bank was not something I thought was on the menu. So from 2022 until July of 2023, I was hunting, and then I expanded my market to include Mason and Kitsap counties. I found some deals that make sense. I started making offers, ended up buying a house hack, and then from 2023 until now, I'm house hacking, and I did a 10-month reno. Never doing it again. So I was this close to investing in Gary. But it's any market. I would want somebody who's investing there successfully to let me use their systems because I don't have trusted boots on the ground there. So, Luke, do you in Gary? Do you know somebody who lives in Gary? Do you have those systems? Or can you connect with Mike and get to know his systems? I think he made a pretty good group of Indiana investors. That's what I would do before I did. And it doesn't have to be that. It could be any of these markets. Like Cody Evers, that's investing in a little bit more north in the Siberia land. If I would go at a distance, I'd reach out to him. Speaking of Cody's, uh, Cody Davis, I'm going to be heading over to what I call Eastern Washington. It's Moses Lake. I'll be going there probably in a week just to hang out, check out his portfolio, record some videos together. I mean, what's the point of financial freedom if you can't go hang out with friends, right? But that's the whole point. So, yeah, get to know somebody who's done what you're doing or wanting to do and connect with them. So, if I was going to Gary, it would definitely be somebody that's already there doing it. If I was going to invest in Rosamond, California, because I absolutely lost my ever-loving mind, I used to live there. I'd probably travel there to learn what's shifted in the neighborhoods, but I know the area well enough to know what I would do. I don't know that I would need those systems in place. Wealth building journey. Does lazy also include time at the accuracy range? Yes. Yeah. Pew 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 therapy. Yes, that's definitely lazy. That's a perishable skill. If you don't keep that up, when you need it, it might not be there. Shred, what are your thoughts on buying, investing in estate sales? I don't think I'd be opposed to it. What is your deal flow goal, right? I've never done driving for dollars. I've never done wholesaler deals. I've never done mailers. So estate things, how would you find them? That sounds like an extra step. I contacted real estate agents. I said, here's my email. These are the things I'm looking for. These are the three things I don't want. Send me all your deals. And if you send me something I like, I'll buy it through you. All my deals came that way. Every single one. Lazy. I was working full time raising three kids. I'm not the creative guy. There's so many strategies that you can do, so many things that you can do. But if you narrow it down to your lane, I guarantee in Washington State, in my market, for the last decade, I don't think anybody has been as good at finding deals on the MLS, getting a conventional loan, and increasing their cash flow without ever doing a HELOC, refi, or selling for 1031. Just super lazy, buying from the MLS. 10 years later, a couple $100,000 coming in a year that I don't have to work for, never working in my life. Maybe they're out there and they just don't tell anybody. That's probably smart. Uh, that's what I was good at. I wasn't good at all the other things. So I do know. If you really want to do mailers, the real Jesse Lee. It's got a pretty good system. If you want to invest at a distance, I would go to Millennial Mike. Here's how I would do it. If I was going to continue to do rehabs and renos, I'd be in the lumberjack landlords boot camps every time, figuring out currently what is the best thing that gets the best rents with the cheapest, cost effective, not cheapest, most cost effective upgrades to my properties. Yeah, find your people. Is something I'm doing helping? Is the need to be lazy making your job easier? Like buying properties that specifically help limit tenant turnover. This is how you do it as a lazy person, right? A real lazy person doesn't buy properties and they just work until they die. That's lazy. I'm so lazy, I don't want to work until I die. So I buy properties where the tenants want to stay. So I have things like pet friendly front fenced yard, side by side units, not over unders, washer dryer hookups in the units. I'm specifically targeting properties that encourage tenants to stay. And then I go to each tenant when I'm signing a lease and I say, you shouldn't be doing this. You should buy a property. You should never be renting a half of a duplex. You should own the duplex and rent out the other side. And doing that every time for 10 years, this is how small the infinitesimally small the number of people who actually invest are. I've had two tenants. One inherited a house, so she doesn't count. One passed away. He doesn't count. One, well, he counts, but not for buying a property. Two, purchased houses in a decade, finally. They didn't even buy duplexes. They just bought houses. Keep it simple. That's the KISS principle all the way. You can be as creative as you want. You can do all of those kind of strategies. And I might play with some in the future to see what kind of content it makes, but it's not to reach financial freedom or to make financial freedom better, because free is free. Cabergoon, love it. Accuracy range. It's my therapy as well. Perishable, yes. Perishable, and then you never know what you're going to learn. And you never know who's going to teach you. I have to ask, since that first one wasn't water, what flavor of fermented grapes was that? First time I think you've drinking from a wine cup. So I'm traveling. Don't have my mugs here. And the only mug here that I have is this cup that I use for my phone so I can see the chat that says, "I swear by my pretty floral bonnet, I will end you." Props to anybody who gets the quote. And I think we're going to wrap it up there because I got to get ready for the course video tonight at 6 o'clock. I hope to see you there. Intro to this video, if you get a chance to watch it, it was 19 minutes. It was talking about most people are pretending 2034 is not going to happen. Until my next video, have a day full of amazing. And I'm off.